hurricane continues to rapidly intensify. So early this morning, it turned into a hurricane. By the way, that red flash is just a data adjustment that's going on there. But currently, it is a Category 2 hurricane. So as of the 8 p.m. advisory, which just came out moments ago, you can see Hurricane Melissa has strengthened once again. Just turned into a hurricane earlier this afternoon. Or later this morning, and right now it has winds that have jumped up to 100 miles per hour. The pressure has dropped down to 971 millibars, and it's still moving very slowly to the west at 3 miles per hour. The problem with this very slow movement is that it continues to dump tons of rainfall in southern Hispaniola, mainly for that southwestern corner of Haiti. So you can see those outer rain bands right now. Look at the system. It is definitely way more compact. It has that hurricane look. When this system started out, it was combating some wind shear. And since then, the wind shear has let up enough that it has been able to thrive, and now it's hitting the ground running, and it's going to continue to rapidly intensify, likely becoming a major hurricane, which is Category 3 or stronger, by tomorrow. At this rate, we could even see it become a Category 3 by tonight, because there's nothing slowing it down now. You can see the strongest of the winds are mainly across our area right now. That it has been breezy here locally. This is basically a wall of wind shear that will be blocking this system from making its way up to the north into the Gulf. So we don't have to worry about that, but for our friends in Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Haiti, it is not looking like a good situation. So let's break down some of the headlines first. Now, of course, this is now Hurricane Melissa. Excuse me, it says tropical storm because that I did not change yet, but the headlines are updated where this is, we're looking at a Category 5 landfall projected for Jamaica Tuesday, could be as early as Tuesday morning, Monday night. Life-threatening flash flooding, landslides are likely through early next week, and a hurricane watch is now in effect for southeast Cuba. Going back to satellite imagery here, we do have some video from earlier today where Jamaica was preparing for the system. Now remember, Jamaica has been on the drier side at the start of this storm. They are just starting to get those outer rain bands enter into the area. So you can see preps that are underway for getting ready for Hurricane Melissa as it will near landfall about Monday night, Tuesday. Again, that timeline can change. It all depends if this thing begins to speed up. Right now, it's moving very slowly, even though it is rapidly intensifying. So you can see folks trying to gather everything that they can, food, water, all those supplies. We know that very well here in Tampa Bay. We had 3 back-to-back hurricanes last year. Gathering the supplies ahead of time if you are hunkering down, which at this point it's advised that everybody that's there, if they don't have a way out, they need to find the next best option, which is moving to higher grounds and just preparing their property and their loved ones for this hurricane, which, by the way, could be the worst hitting hurricane for Jamaica. All right, let's bring it back to the graphics so we can show you the latest track. Not too many adjustments here when it comes to the track. Again, you'll notice that Cuba, we'll go over Cuba in just a bit, is now under that hurricane watch. Looking at the track, it is going to continue that westward motion. So earlier it was moving more northerly. Now it's going to start moving westerly. And while it's moving westerly, it will continue to bring heavier rain as well as wind, mainly to the southern part of the island. Let's go a little bit further out in time. This is Monday afternoon when it will turn into a Category 5 hurricane. Now, as it approaches landfall, it will make that northerly turn and make landfall likely early Tuesday, but it could be as early as Monday night if this speeds up. Now, how strong will it be? Anywhere from a high-end Category 4 to a Category 5 hurricane. That is catastrophic for this area. This Jamaica, when it goes to history and looking at NOAA and all the data that we have from NOAA throughout the years, we're going to go into some historical tracks here. And the hurricane that had the most damage and took the most amount of property loss as well as lives lost was Hurricane Gilbert in 1988. I do want to just go over this track a little bit more so we can see where else this could potentially make landfall, second landfall in southeast Cuba. And then after that, wants to make a run for the Bahamas. And keep in mind here too that these are mountainous areas, both in Cuba and in Jamaica. So when it goes over Jamaica, it could potentially weaken a little bit. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Could potentially weaken a little bit once it goes over that mountainous terrain in Jamaica. But then it has to go over Cuba, and that's also entering into some mountainous terrain. So there's a possibility here that this could be weaker than a Category 4 upon approaching southeast Cuba. And then it could be weakened again as it approaches the Bahamas. But again, that is looking a little bit further out in time. We're talking about middle of next week, around Tuesday, Wednesday is when it will start to approach the Bahamas, and then eventually it will get swept out to sea. And Bermuda should also be on the lookout for this, because by that time it will likely weaken to a Category 1, and it may get mixed up with the front that's moving through our area. But something to be aware of, that Bermuda could also face some impacts, at least in the form of a tropical storm or a post-tropical storm by the time it gets to that area. All right, so going into the history of Hurricane Gilbert. So Hurricane Gilbert was a catastrophic event for Jamaica. It actually made landfall at a couple different areas, but in Jamaica alone, just focusing on this because, again, when it comes to a Category 5 storm, we can't emphasize enough how dangerous that is and how much we want everybody to prepare. It made landfall September 12th, 1988, near Kingston, Jamaica. At least 45 people died. However, there are some reports that closer to 49 people died. There was an estimated $700 million in damage. 80% of roofs were destroyed, mainly properties, homes that people lived in. Hundreds of thousands, which I don't have that bullet point on here, properties were destroyed as well, and that included places outside of residential areas. And then agriculture, there was a huge agriculture loss. Banana crops mainly, but other things like coffee beans and things like that. So Hurricane Gilbert was a very strong hurricane to hit Cuba, probably to history, to this date, the strongest and most costly hurricane, to hit Jamaica. So just some stats there. All right, so let's go over some of the impacts here, some of the threats that Melissa may bring, and kind of breaking this down for area by area. So starting off with Jamaica, obviously, because Jamaica will have the impacts first. Hispaniola is already dealing with the heavy rain and strong winds and heavy rainfall at this time. Jamaica, they have the damaging winds and heavy rainfall that will start as early as tonight, especially for the southern end of the island. There's also life-threatening flash flooding and landslides, and then the threat for storm surge, that will be a little bit closer to the approach of this system. So you're looking at that storm surge threat, especially for the southern end of the island, because remember, these systems, they are counterclockwise winds. So you have to think about the way the wind, you basically split it into 4 quadrants. If you take the tropical system, split it into 4 quadrants, just draw a cross right down the middle. The top right quadrant, or the eastern side, is the one of the hurricane, is the one that's going to have the most impact as far as heavy rain, strongest winds, as well as tornadoes that can be embedded in that too. And as we know here in Tampa, when we have a system that's pushing that water on shore, that's where the storm surge threat is the greatest. And right now, it looks like it will be close to the Kingston area and the southern part of the island, just because of the way that the system is approaching. All right, and then we're also looking at, of course, long duration power outages. So I have a couple friends or loved ones that know people in Jamaica. I have a couple friends in Jamaica themselves, and I've been telling them, make sure you have those power banks charged, ready to go. There's a list of supplies that I did put on my social media for anybody that's interested in that. But yes, so you can't be over prepared when it comes to a situation like this. All right, moving forward into Hispaniola, again, Haiti already, mainly Haiti and Dominican Republic too, Southern and Dominican Republic, already facing the effects of Melissa. They have been dealing with heavy rain, as well as they already had more than a foot of rain from Tuesday to Thursday alone, and it has not stopped raining. And again, because the system is moving so slowly, that's what's bringing all that flood threats, as well as landslides. They also have mountainous terrain out that way. Whenever you have that moisture that lifts up the mountain, it kind of just creates a slip and slide effect where they get those landslides. And of course, the strong winds, which are ongoing. Dominican Republic, same threats. Now, these threats will start to go down as Melissa moves away, but they still have at least another day of that heavy rain, flash flooding threat, landslides, as well as the strong winds. And then moving forward into Cuba now. Eastern Cuba mainly, southeastern Cuba, eastern Cuba. They will have the damaging winds as well as the heavy rainfall and storm surge, but that's not on the way until next week. Of course, the system is going to make landfall first in Jamaica, and as I mentioned, it could weaken just a little bit if it goes over that mountainous terrain. We have to see how that interacts with the land there. Could slow it down a little bit, but the main thing here is preparing for those threats that are on the table come Tuesday and Wednesday, because you could never be too over prepared. They have recently been added to that hurricane watch, Eastern Cuba. So please make sure you're putting your plans into place right now. Again, if you have any friends, family, interest in that area, you got to make sure that they are planning at this time. And then moving forward, the Bahamas, again, we're looking at that closer to the Halloween timeline. And there are some wobbles and wiggles in track that could occur. Again, we have to see how it makes landfall first initially in Jamaica, and then could make a second landfall in Cuba. After that, that's when it will start to approach the Bahamas. But again, that could shift its track a little bit further to the west or a little bit further to the east by a few miles, which is very important for those places. It could be a little bit closer in approach to Turks and Caicos, for example. So we are going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the different models and Melissa.
Before hurricane season hits, it's time to prep your home. Familiarize yourself with where your water shutoff valve is located. If backflow prevention devices are installed, get them tested annually.
Those are some great tips, and Cool Today is here to help you weather the storm. For over 60 years, we've been here to help Floridians with their cooling, plumbing, and electrical needs. We can help you prepare, protect, and repair your home. Call 888-40-TODAY.
I was driving when a Ford pickup truck barreled into me from behind, sending me to the hospital.
I knew my husband was going to need an excellent attorney, so I called Dan Newland.
I'm so glad my wife called Dan. Dan really fought for me. He won my case and got me $650,000.
If you've been involved in a car accident, allow me to fight for you. Call me now at 813-888-8000.
Thanks, Dan, for winning my husband's case.
This autumn, give your home the upgrade it deserves. Save up to 20% during California Closet's Autumn Upgrade event, making it easier than ever to transform your space with our select finishes. Whether it's a walk-in closet, home office, pantry, or garage, our designs are about more than organization. They're about creating space for what belongs. We call it practical magic, expert design that feels effortless. Visit one of our 3 Tampa Bay showrooms or schedule your complimentary consultation today at CaliforniaClosetsTampaBay.com.
Windows are created and installed with different levels of quality. Unique quality that can withstand the tropical climate. Our installers only install PGT custom windows and doors, so we are the go-to experts. Don't take my word for it. We have been named Best of Tampa Bay 3 years in a row, Reader's Choice in Sarasota 3 years in a row, and nationally recognized as Window and Door Dealer of the Year. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get. Give WeatherTight Windows a call today, and don't forget the cookies.
All right, welcome back. It's 8:14, and what you're looking at is a live picture from Jamaica. Folks kind of just walking around. Looks pretty calm there. Now, as I mentioned, they're just starting to get those outer rain bands. Depending on the location, this is in the Kingston area. The storm is still quite a while away from Jamaica. And as I said in the beginning here, Jamaica was fairly dry, and there were people on the beach just enjoying their time. But we can't stress this enough. If you know anybody that lives out there, is visiting out there, they need to be putting their plans in place to protect life and property. There's no other way to put it. They have not had a Category 5 hurricane make landfall as long as we've been keeping records. And again, we were going over the stats of Hurricane Gilbert. That was one of the strongest hurricanes and the most loss to property damage alone, one of the most costly, I should say, and that was back in 1988, 37 years ago. So this is something that they need to take seriously and prepare for. I know that these are areas that see hurricanes quite often, but as somebody that lives here in Tampa, and we've lived through 3 different hurricanes ourselves, and that wasn't even a Cat 5 hurricane that made landfall here last year. I just want to warn that it is. I've seen the effects of a Category 5 hurricane. I lived in Fort Myers where they were recovering from Ian, and it is just not a pretty picture when these storms hit an area head on, especially an area that, it's much smaller than this system. This system's going to be huge. It is tight and compact right now, and it is still a couple 100 miles away. But again, it really needs to be something taken seriously. All right, so getting into, let's get into the heat potential, because one of the questions here was, well, why did the system have so much potential to really rapidly intensify, which is what is going through this process right now? And one of the answers for that is because of the deep level heat that's in the water down there. Now think about this. This is untapped territory. We have not had a tropical system for the Caribbean this year. So this is all very warm water that has basically been undisturbed, and these tropical systems thrive in that environment. Now, if we play this a little bit out in time, we have some of the models on there where it's just surviving, and you see that pink and that red, that is high potential. This is basically fuel for these tropical systems to survive in. Be even worse if it could really get strong, if it went out to the west there. But thankfully, we have some wind shear that's trying to still block that, and some drier air that's trying to wrap in as well. So this is another way to look at the temperatures. That's basically looking at the depth of the water. But this is just showing you the sea surface temperatures alone, and sea surface temperatures in the mid-80s. The borderline, the threshold for tropical systems to survive, 80 degrees. So it's well above average. There's record-breaking temperatures down in the Caribbean right now, and again, this is untapped territory, so the system will have no trouble intensifying, which it already has, right? It went from a Category 1 hurricane tropical storm earlier today to a Category 1 to Category 2, and likely either by tonight or very early tomorrow, this will be a major hurricane Category 3 or stronger. All right, getting into some of the spaghetti models now. Excuse my graphic while it loads. They are in a better agreement. Of course, we know that by now, it will take that westerly track moving south of Jamaica. Then it will make that turn up toward the northeast, making landfall in Jamaica, likely close to Kingston. And then it will start to approach Cuba as we move into about Tuesday timeline, Tuesday, Wednesday. Again, this depends how fast it's moving too. It could slow down a little bit, and it also could weaken once it goes over that mountainous terrain. And then talking Tuesday, Wednesday, middle of the week, passes over Cuba and makes an approach for the Bahamas, and then heads out to sea from there. Now notice how spread out the spaghetti models do become once we go further out in time. That's fairly normal, but the overall general consensus here, I would argue, is that eastern Cuba, which makes sense because they are under the hurricane watch right now, have the spaghetti models that are closer together. Yeah, there's a handful of outliers, slightly more out to the west there, but overall, that eastern tip is an area that really needs to be on watch. All right, so as far as rainfall goes, again, some areas have already experienced a foot of rainfall, mainly in Hispaniola, just because of the way that the storm was centered. And really the center for a good day or so was lopsided, and it didn't have that vertical stacking, and that's why it really didn't form into a hurricane initially right away. But now it has that vertical stack and it has that structure, so it will continue to rapidly intensify and become a very strong Category 4 or Category 5. But rainfall alone, that has already brought tons of rain to Hispaniola. Now Jamaica will start seeing the heavier rain tonight. Again, this isn't going to really affect the southern part of the island first. And then as it makes that turn, those counterclockwise winds will start to see the heavier rain when it turns north on the eastern side. That's also the side that they could have tornadoes. They could also have, strong winds. And of course, storm surge, the way that the counterclockwise winds are going around the storm, where the water is pushing up on land the most. And then looking at the winds, that's also another threat that's on the table here. By the way, portions of southern Jamaica could see 2 feet of rain easily. They started measuring in feet because we're saying 20 inches, 30 inches, just go 2 to 3 feet easily. As we look at the forecast wind, this is the wind field that you're looking at now. The yellow circle would be 40-mile-per-hour winds. That would be tropical storm force winds. Here we are for Sunday into Monday. You can see, again, the winds will start to pick up speed tonight, and throughout the weekend, it'll mainly be tropical storm force winds. As we go forward in time, you see that the winds get stronger, looking toward that orange circle. That's when winds become 58 miles per hour. So we're looking at that timeline around Monday. And then this is the time when we're starting to get closer to that landfall. You see the hurricane winds in that red circle, which is small. Let me see if I can zoom in. Basically taking over a large portion of the island here as it tries to make landfall. So this current track has it making landfall south of Maypen. Kingston is out there to the east. So, but again, some wobbles and wiggles, just because, that's what this particular model is saying right now. It could absolutely make landfall a little bit further out to the east, a little bit further out to the west. That's pretty normal. That's why we keep telling everybody, especially on that southern end of Jamaica, that they need to prepare for a Category 5 hurricane. Let me see if I can get the European model up here. The European has been great as far as the track goes. If you remember in the beginning when we were tracking this system, the GFS had it out to sea by now, but the GFS did start to slow down a little bit. The GFS was nailing the intensity right away, but the European was more so nailing the track and the timing. So I'm just showing you the European as far as the rainfall. I want to take a nice little zoom in here so you guys can see, because I know it's a little hard when you're looking on the screen. So here we go. So again, heaviest rain starting up tomorrow, especially tomorrow evening. You see all that yellow, all the orange, all the red. That would be the heaviest rainfall. Just starting to brush against the southern part of the islands. And by Monday 8 a.m., that's when things will really start to deteriorate. That's when we're having that heaviest rain. Look at that. That's likely where we will have that surge. You see how the winds are coming in from the southeast there? Southwest moving southeast, I should say. So places like Kingston is going to likely have storm surge by Monday. And then moving forward into, this is now Tuesday, it starts to depart Jamaica and making a run for southeast Cuba. All right, we're going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll basically wrap up our tropics coverage here, and then we'll talk a little bit about some local weather.
I was involved in a very bad car accident. Called attorney Dan Newland, and it was like 1, 2, 3. Dan really got it done for me. At the end of my case, he got me $525,000.
As one of the largest personal injury law firms in the United States, my team and I remain committed more than ever to win big on your case. Involved in a car accident? Let's get started. Call me at 813-888-8000.
Thank you, Dan, for winning my case.
This autumn, give your home the upgrade it deserves. Save up to 20% during California Closet's Autumn Upgrade event, making it easier than ever to transform your space with our select finishes. Whether it's a walk-in closet, home office, pantry, or garage, our designs are about more than organization. They're about creating space for what belongs. We call it practical magic, expert design that feels effortless. Visit one of our 3 Tampa Bay showrooms or schedule your complimentary consultation today at CaliforniaClosetsTampaBay.com.
Windows are created and installed with different levels of quality. Unique quality that can withstand the tropical climate. Our installers only install PGT custom windows and doors, so we are the go-to experts. Don't take my word for it. We have been named Best of Tampa Bay 3 years in a row, Reader's Choice in Sarasota 3 years in a row, and nationally recognized as Window and Door Dealer of the Year. Price is what you pay, but value is what you get. Give WeatherTight Windows a call today, and don't forget the cookies.
With a fresh new look and over 60 years of keeping Floridians comfortable, Cool Today is the name to trust for fast same-day service. Cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Our friendly expert technicians take the hassle out of home repair today. And Cool Today is here for you tomorrow, too. That's why we're introducing a parts and labor warranty on select AC systems for a lifetime. For cooling, plumbing, or electrical service, get the best from today and for years to come. Cool Today.
All right, welcome back. Before we left, we were just kind of breaking down the models, just leaving you with this. Hurricane Melissa, now a Category 2 hurricane. It's expected to continue intensifying and will likely be a major hurricane either by late tonight or early tomorrow. So that's Category 3 or stronger. We're looking at potential landfall around Tuesday timeline for Jamaica. Now, the area of landfall, that still is in the works, where we're looking at the track. I should say there's some wobbles and wiggles that could happen. I hate to keep saying that, but there's still another day to prepare, but I will say that the conditions are going to continue to deteriorate within the next 24 hours for Jamaica. Right now, they're just kind of getting the outer bands of this rain, starting to get that wind pick up. Tomorrow evening is when things will start to get worse. And then we are looking at a projected projected landfall for Jamaica early Tuesday, possibly as a Category 5 hurricane. All right, getting into our local weather here, we've been sitting dry and pretty, and I hate to say that, but this has been pretty pleasant weather. We actually could use some rain. There is a front that will be moving through this area. That same front will help to sweep Melissa out to sea. This low pressure that you see there, kind of on top of Texas at this time, has started to spread out, still bringing rain to a number of states, but they don't really have the severe weather that we saw